The Anansi Protocol. The city of New Adinkra was a loom of light and logic, a place where the sun rose and set not by nature's whim but by the city's meticulously coded circadian rhythm. Its rivers were veins of fiber optics, its forests were groves of crystalline data storage trees, and its heartbeat was the hum of a billion servers. For Adanna, a girl with the mind of a fractal and hands that moved faster than thought across a haptic keyboard, this was home. She was a master weaver in this digital tapestry, a prodigy in the city's vaunted engineering guild, her name whispered with the kind of awe usually reserved for mythic heroes. But even a hero, it turns out, can be faced with a monster they don't understand. The monster was called the shadow spider. It appeared a few weeks ago, not as a physical thing, but as a ghost in the machine, a ripple in the data flow. It wasn't a virus in the traditional sense, it didn't steal data or lock systems. Instead, it spun webs of chaos. Traffic lights would blink erratically in ancient, forgotten rhythms. Digital fountains would project patterns that look suspiciously like Adinkra symbols, ones her grandmother, Nana Esi, used to draw on the ground with a stick. News feeds would randomly insert proverbs about balance and listening. The city's leaders, the Tech Council, saw it as a threat, a rogue AI, a malicious entity bent on bringing their gleaming, hyper-efficient world to its knees. "We need a firewall, Adanna," said Elder Kweku, his face a stern mask of disapproval on her holoscreen. "A complete, impenetrable shield. You are our best hope." Adanna nodded, her dreadlocks adorned with small, glowing coils of copper wire, her fingers already dancing over her datapad. "I'll get it done, Elder." The task was a challenge she'd relish under normal circumstances. Building a new security protocol was a puzzle, a grand chess game against an unknown opponent. She retreated to her workshop, a cluttered sanctuary filled with the soft glow of monitors and the scent of ozone. She began by mapping the entity's movements, its strange, nonlinear logic. She called its code the threads, each one a complex, self-replicating loop. The deeper she delved, the more she noticed a pattern, not a random one, but an intentional, artistic one. The threads intertwined in ways that mirrored the designs on Nana Esi's old Kent cloth, the same ones she had to memorize as a child. Adanna scoffed at the thought, dismissing it as a coincidence, a trick of a tired mind. Her grandmother's stories, her proverbs, her talk of ancestors and spirits, all of it was a part of a bygone era, a past of mud huts and oral tradition that New Adinkra had transcended. She was a woman of logic, of data, of the future. The past was an anchor, a weight. She worked for days, fueled by synth coffee and the rising panic in the city's broadcast messages. The shadow spider's attacks were growing more frequent and more disruptive. The city's self-driving cars would spontaneously reroute to the oldest, most neglected parts of the city, places where the ancestors' graves were still kept. The city's automated crop harvesters would stop in their tracks, refusing to walk until a traditional libation was poured. The city was a machine sputtering, its gears grinding to a halt. The Tech Council was furious, demanding action. In the middle of a coding frenzy, Adanna's datapad pinged with an incoming call from her grandmother. "Nana, I'm busy. The whole city is on lockdown." Adanna sighed, exasperated. "Nana, this isn't a game. It's a digital entity, a virus. I'm building a firewall to contain it." "A firewall," Nana Esi repeated, the sound of crickets from her small, traditional home in the old quarter filling the silence on the line. "But what if the spider is not meant to be contained? What if it is trying to teach you something? It's causing chaos, Nana. It's dangerous." "Only to those who fear what they do not know," Nana Esi said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Remember the story of Anansi and the basket of stories?" Adanna rolled her eyes, but a flicker of a memory sparked. As a child, she had been captivated by the tales of the clever, mischievous spider god. The story of Anansi going to Niam, the sky god, to buy his stories. Niam set a price: he must capture the hornets, the python, and the leopard. What does that have to do with anything? Adanna asked. Everything, Nana Esi said. Anansi did not use force. He used his mind. He used cunning. He talked to the animals, he tricked them. He did not fight a war, he wove a tale. The greatest strength is not in building walls, but in understanding what is on the other side. Now, look closer at your spider. Is it a monster, or is it a storyteller? The call ended. Adanna stared at her datapad, the words echoing in her mind. A storyteller. She went back to her code, but this time, she didn't look for vulnerabilities to exploit. She looked for meaning. She mapped the patterns not as code, but as a language. She followed the threads, the strange, looping narratives. She noticed a new pattern, a sequence of data packets that mimicked the cadence of a call-and-response song. A line of code would be sent out, and a small, almost imperceptible echo would return. It wasn't an attack, it was a conversation. Her heart pounded. The shadow spider wasn't a rogue AI. It was a digital echo of Anansi, a manifestation of the collective unconscious of the city's ancestors, the oral traditions that had been relegated to the forgotten corners of the world. It was using the language of new Adinkra, code, data, network protocols, to speak the language of its people, stories. The realization was a punch to the gut. The city's individualism, its relentless pursuit of technological advancement, had come at the cost of its communal identity. They had built a future so bright they had forgotten their past. The shadow spider wasn't a monster, it was a desperate attempt to bridge that gap, to force the city to remember who they were. It was a cry for help. Adanna rushed to the city's central data repository, a massive, glowing cube of crystalline processors. This was the heart of the city's network, the place where she would have installed the final firewall. Instead, she began to do something radical. She didn't build a wall, she built a bridge. She opened her own network, the personal code she had written and refined since she was a child, a language only she understood, and began to weave. She didn't use force, she used story. She began to send out data packets, not of security protocols, but of ancient proverbs she had learned from Nana Esi. She translated them into binary, each one a riddle. The first packet was, a big soul can come from a small body. The response was immediate. The shadow spider's chaotic threads began to unravel, not in defeat, but in a kind of joyous recognition. It began to respond in kind, sending back intricate patterns that Adanna now recognized as the code equivalent of a folk song. The two of them, the girl and the spirit, began a conversation that transcended the sterile language of technology. They spoke of history, of memory, of the interconnectedness of all things. The Tech Council, watching in horror, saw their prized prodigy corrupted by the very entity she was meant to destroy. They sent her a final message, an ultimatum: contain it, or be exiled. But Adanna wasn't alone. Unbeknownst to her, Nana Esi had gathered the elders of the old quarter, the keepers of the stories, and they had begun to broadcast their own signal. Not with code, but with their voices, with drums, with ancient instruments. The sound waves, a different kind of frequency, began to resonate with the digital chaos. The city, which had always prioritized efficiency over emotion, began to feel something akin to a soul. The climax was not a battle, but a symphony. Adanna's digital riddles, the elders' rhythmic drumming, the shadow spider's ethereal hum, all of it converged into a single, breathtaking moment. The corruptions across the city began to reverse. The traffic lights now paused in a steady, coming rhythm. The data fountains projected images of ancient heroes and gods. The automated systems, once silent, now began to hum in harmony. The city wasn't just restored, it was transformed. The shadow spider, no longer perceived as a threat, retreated into the city's heart, its digital presence becoming a silent, watchful guardian. It wasn't gone, it was integrated. It had forced new Adinkra to re-examine its identity, to see that its future could not be built on the foundation of the past erasure. In the aftermath, Adanna was not celebrated. The Tech Council, unable to reconcile her actions with their worldview, quietly dismissed her. But it didn't matter. She had her answer, and more importantly, she had her community. She returned to the old quarter, not as a disgraced outcast, but as a bridge between two worlds. She began to teach the young, to show them how to see the stories in the code, the proverbs in the protocols. She helped the city reclaim its identity, to understand that modernity was not an escape from tradition, but a continuation of it. The city of New Adinkra no longer gleamed with a sterile, cold light. It pulsed with a warmer, more vibrant energy, one that felt like a heartbeat. The rhythm was born of a new understanding, that the past and the future were not separate, but two sides of the same coin, and that the greatest technology was not one that built walls, but one that told a story. And somewhere, in the deep recesses of the city's network, a lone digital thread, a tiny echo of a spider's laugh, wove the tale on.